Okay, this will be our last section of selection tools. Pun on that one. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at below the lasso tool, there's object selection tools. There are three. As you can see, the small triangle there again. They are the object selection tool, the quick selection tool, and the magic wand. It started off with a magic wand, and then it has evolved into these two. Quick selection's been around for about 2 or 3 years, a little bit longer possibly, and then this object selection, which is pretty much relatively new. So let's go with that one first. Okay, as you can see, I still have my dog. Love that dog. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually draw a square around it. Okay, so I'm going to try and tell the computer what object I want selected, and I go something like this. Click around it, and then I let go and release. Notice the computer is picking up what it thinks I'm looking for. Okay. And I had better, when I was trying this earlier, I was having a better success rate. So I'm going to go ahead and try and replace it. Let's try this one more time. I'll go a little farther out. Okay. And to see what happens. Now, I'm going to go right to the white. Done. Boom. Nope, I'm still having the same issues with it is. But before I got a perfect selection almost all the way around, except for one or two things. So this is something you're going to have to play with. You're going to have to understand and do, okay? But I'm believing it's kind of similar like the magnetic tool where it's going to define the sizes and it's going to define where the color is and then take it from there. So notice I did the third one here and notice it went with a definitive line. Okay, but notice up top, I can actually add to it. So let's go to a unite. I'll click here and I'll start defining what the dog looks like. See if I can get the mess of the dog in here. And as you can see, it's adding more and more things, but yet it's picking between the light and the dark fur. So it works with when something is all alone and isolated. You can select it really easy and do something like this. This one's a little bit more difficult, as you can see, but it works really well. And again, up top, it has its four things, the intersect, the subtract, the add, and the replace. So that's the first one. And like I say, there are times where it works extremely well. There are times where in this incident wasn't the best. Okay. So let's go to the next one. We're going to go select and deselect this. Our next tool is my favorite. It's called the quick selection tool. And you're going to notice up top, it does not have the replace, the unite, the subtraction, and intersection. It has a plus, which is unite, or subtract, and that's it. And what we're going to do is, and you're going to notice up here, it actually has a brush size. We'll talk more about brushes, but that's what this is a brush size. What I like to do is I like to see my brush size. I'm going to go with, let's say, 40, somewhere around between 40 and 50. Click it here. We look good. Notice it looks pretty good here. I like it. You can actually see it over here above the dog's head. I'm going to click once. And notice I'm in the tool. I'm going to click. I click and notice it's already selected what it thinks is right. And it is relatively good. Actually, it's really good if you ask me. And that's why I use this. Even here on the right-hand side near the furs, you could kind of see me over here with the brush itself. It actually picked up a good jagged edge. But the wrong thing is, I have this piece over here on over his right ear that I don't want. But that's where I go into the minus and subtract. Now, I'm not going to use a larger brush. I'm going to make my brush smaller, so it's going to think in smaller sections. And what you're going to find out, or what I'm finding out, is I like to just click. Okay, so notice here's my brush. I'm going to just come over here in the area that I want to get rid of, and I'm over on the right hand side of my ear. I'll click once, subtracting, and notice it slowly subtracts what I want. Now, I got into the ear itself. I can do two things. I can go Control Z, my last step, and leave it there. Or I can go back. I'll click it one more time. Or I can come over and leave it as such. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave it as such and show you what I would do to fine tune this. This is where I'm using my other tools, my other selection tools to fine tune my selection. I would come here with my lasso tool. I would definitely get closer. Let's go. I'm going Control plus. Notice I'm getting larger, using my space bar to get my hand and bring into my selection. Notice how nice these are. The lines are very organic. It's picking up the pixel. It looks well. But let's do my lasso tool and let's do where you unite. Come here. I will hand draw this in. Come around and notice I've got a beautiful selection. Also, I've noticed down here in the bottom, and I'm going through my selection, it looks good. I wanna get this leg here in here a little bit, so I'm gonna come down here. I'm gonna be arbitrary about this. Now let's come way down here, and I'll explain why in a moment. Come back around, and notice I've united it. I can come back here now to my my quick selection tool. I'm already in subtract. Let's subtract a little bit. Boom. Oh, it went too much. I thought it would be straight across. But I can do my rectangle selection tool. I want to subtract, and I'll get that perfectly nice fine line. And notice it did. So now when I go control 0, I've got my dog in a really, really good place to start, okay? Yes, I can move it. I can do whatever I want. The last tool now is the magic wand tool. And the magic wand tool, let me go deselect this, has limitations, and it's the computer picking up what you want it to pick up. You have to tell you what you want to pick up. So let's come over here to our magic wand. Notice up top, I've got a couple things. We're going to talk about the feather later. We're going to talk about refining edges later too. That's in our next step when we talk about masks. But now we're going to come here to tolerance. And tolerance is the most important thing. Think of tolerance as a population in a city. The lower the number, the less pixels it's going to choose. The higher the number, the more people it's going to let into the town, and the greater the pixels it's going to choose. What happens is, and let's get a little closer to this guy. I go my control plus. I'm using control plus. Say I want to get the white in his nose. I have the tool, and I'm going to just click on it. And notice it's picking up just a small section of the white. And you could see there's a variation of the white or the cream, whatever you want to call it, here. And it's chosen this specific, like I clicked on a section of my pixels, and then it picked it up from there. Okay. So what I want to do is let's change that. Let's go Control Z, get rid of that. Let's change this to say 50. Hit my tab button, and I click on it now, and notice how much more weight it's picked up. Because what's happening is I'm having the computer recognize that here's a value, and I want to do a bunch more of the value or closer similar to that value. Notice it didn't really go into the tan or into the gray over here, but it picked up most of the white. So using and adjusting that number up top here is going to make all the difference in your tool. Now, we also have a replace. We have our unite. If I want to come back and hit unite, say pick up this down here and this white down here, I click and notice it's done a unite. Now notice it's picked up a little bit more pink into the actual tongue. So I can go back, Control Z, let's adjust that to down to 10 and see if it gets more specific. And it should. So let's come down here, click this white again down here to the left-hand side of his nose. Boom. And notice I'm just picking up small sections. So maybe instead of me doing 10, I might have wanted to do 20 or 30, but just know that that's how that works. Again, with the magic wand, the tolerance itself right up here is the most important thing. Okay. How you do the tolerance is, again, important. The lower the number, the more specific it's going to be, the smaller the selection is going to be. The bigger the number, like I say, it's a town. I'm inviting more people into my town with the higher number. It's going to pick a much larger amount of that color. So those are the selection tools. I've done it in about three videos. They are the most important things because with the selection, everything works off of that, or most everything works off of that. And that's what we're going to do. So know these tools. These are the tools that will be the foundation for everything else. And that's how we're going to do this. In the video, I put down some text that I would go over a little bit more of the object select tool. With the object select tool, when I'm pulling and dragging, I had the dog in the middle. As you see when I pull and drag, you'll see a small little cross here in the middle of the square. That's where it starts and works its way out. So notice it picked up most of the white. And that's where you have to remember that. And that's one of the things that it's new to me too. So if I do the ear again, I'm going to click this ear and notice you'll see a little cross in the middle. I select it and then it goes and finds the area that it was. It was that the red it's looking for. Okay. And that's how it does. So let's say I want just a tongue itself. Let's go select and deselect. I'm looking just for the tongue. Let's get a little closer. Plus, plus, plus. Do, do, do. Let's say I want that. I'm gonna go through it, and notice you'll see a little plus sign on the tongue. It's like right in the middle of the tongue. You can see it. I do it, and notice it selects most of the tongue. So remember that when you do it, and then I try the nose. Let's put the nose on there, and notice it's picking up most of the nose. Again, it's this little cross in the middle of the square that I'm drawing that it starts there and it moves its way out. Okay, so that's the other bit I'm finding and noticing. I'm putting this as much as layman's terms as I can, or as simple as I can, so that a whole audience can figure this out. So thank you for your talents as always. Love doing these videos. I hope you're learning something, and I'll talk to you later.